What's up, everybody? Welcome back to episode 27 of the War Podcast.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It's Don and Dustin. We got quite the episode for you today. We're talking everything from the drug scene in Chiraq, which is code name for Chicago, the violence down there. We go into the Scientology approach to addiction, which is something that's quite unique, an expose, I might even say. And we go into somebody whose arms were so dead from shooting heroin that they were pulling black tendons out of their arms. Dustin, what do you think about it?
Well, it was a interesting episode. This guy's arms, which you'll see, major surgery in order for him to keep his arms. And then just the story of what that drug did to him and the cravings that it led him to having and the way of life it led him to living. It was pretty incredible to hear it. And then inspirational as well, because he's changed his life and is doing big things with his life nowadays.
And I think I dare say he leaves you guys with something inspirational. We hope you guys enjoy this video. Stay tuned. Next week is going to be episode 1 of season 2. So the new season of the War Podcast, where we're going to have a lot of new different things for you guys. A lot of things on the YouTube channel, different videos besides just the podcast. We got lots coming for you. So we appreciate you guys sticking with us. And follow the links below and check out the rest of our social media. Thank you.
What was it like growing up in Chicago? As far as being just like, having an addiction. I mean, that's a big city, and I've heard a lot. You hear a lot about Chicago on the news.
Yeah, you hear a lot, mainly about the murders, obviously.
Chiraq.
The thing is, like, that's basically driven by the drug trade. I mean, like, when you look at, they'll break it down at like the end of the year as far as like a murder map, and it's two small areas: Inglewood on the south side, which is Chiraq. That's right. The Chiraq area.
Chief Keef and all them.
Yeah. And then you got the west side, which used to be a little bit more busy as far as like the open air drug market, and that's where that is. On the west side is like the open air. You can go to a corner, you see a few guys on the corner, and you're good. You know what I mean? It's
right.
Like a drive in and out. It's like easier than going to McDonald's. It would be to get drugs there.
Wow. That's like San Francisco, man.
Really simple. Like they actually 290, they call it Heroin Highway, because they have exits every like half to a quarter mile for all the main roads, and you can just pop up the exit, stop at one of the projects on the side or one of the little housing areas, then get right back on the exit. And they actually stopped even pulling people over for a while, because they knew it was such a problem with suburban kids that they were just taking their license plate and sending it to their parents, basically saying,
"No way."
Yeah, like, we know there's only one reason they came up here, and blah blah blah. But anyway, as far as my experience, I had the typical great upbringing. Like, I had no like real addiction in my family, no problems, nobody to like look up to or down to, I guess, in a negative way. It started with just like a minor knee thing. Started on the Vicodin, transferred really quickly, just like so many other people, to Oxy, and then Oxy got expensive, and then found heroin really quickly. I actually can tell you the very first time I used heroin was before the first or third game of the World Series when the White Sox won, because I'm a White Sox fan. It was right in the shadow of the stadium at US Cellular.
Oh, wow.
And I used to know in Bridgeport, which is like a predominantly like Italian, Irish, a lot of cops live there because they have to. Cops and firefighters,
Like
city
blue
workers.
collar.
Yeah, they have to work they have to live somewhere in Chicago, and it's one of like the little enclaves. But it's right in the middle, like right across the street from the old Robert Taylor homes, a bunch of other areas that just hot drug markets.
Yeah,
So
Robert Taylor was a bad area.
Horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't.
Like Cabrini Green and all
Yeah,
them.
Cabrini, and they're all gone now.
Right.
So like one of the side effects of that is that it's spread more, basically, where it was
Right.
so much more concentrated in those areas. Now it's just spread out all over the south side. And as far as those areas, like I first, to get back to the first time I knew people in that area, and it was like the very first time I went to go and I was like, hey dude, you got something else? Because I don't have, I don't want to be spending so much money. He's like, well, yeah, we can we can move it up a level, is exactly what he said. And I was like,
wow.
and like without knowing, I mean, I knew exactly what he was talking about, but I pleaded, I had the ignorant, like, oh, okay, yeah, naive. And then I did it, and like I said,
You probably didn't want to ask for it. You're
Well,
probably like, I don't want to
exactly.
ask for heroin. If
Yeah,
he gives it to me, then
it was that taboo, like, oh, Oxycontin, these are, this is pharmaceutical. It's not going to be that big of a deal. And then it got into, and then like he just brought it, and it was just there. It was just in front of me. I remember I was in like a Chrysler Sebring. I can tell you what kind of car it was, what color, everything. I don't remember the guys' names that I was. Pat was one of them. It doesn't matter. But I can just tell you about every little bit of experience. Like it was such a visceral experience that I can, it's such a strong memory.
Wow. Did you smoke it or shoot it?
Sniffed it.
Sniffed it?
Yeah.
in Chicago it's white.
Yeah, it's all.
Oh, really?
I got heroin in Chicago before, unfortunately.
Usually, this is how it's been explained to me. I mean, I don't know, I'm an expert, but not,
Right.
in this. But everything east of the Mississippi is powder, and everything west, and obviously it's not everything. That's an extreme, but like for the most part, it's usually broken up. Where everything west is like the black tar.
True.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
That's a fact, yeah.
So, yeah, and I actually never saw it. I never saw tar in Chicago once.
Right.
And then got into it, had that experience.
When you did it, were you like, oh, this is the same as Oxy, or was it different?
No, it was different. It was like an elevation. You know what I mean? It was the first time I did Vicodin. I was like, damn, like this is normal. Like this is my normal. This is how I should feel. This is how.
This is life.
Right. Exactly. I have this whole new experience. Like everything is like, almost like a trip experience. Like everything's brighter. You know what I mean? I can see everything, and I'm happier about it. So then I kicked it up to Oxy because you just get the normal progression of your tolerance goes up, and then went to Oxy, and then got to heroin, and the heroin was it was that experience where I was just like, holy shit, like it was just like a life force inside me.
Dude, that sucks so bad that there's a substance out there that does that. You know what I'm saying? I related back about like times when I'm standing at a pharmacy. I remember standing at a pharmacy waiting to pick up a script and being so stoked on it that I would miss my kid's birthday. I would miss Christmas morning with my kid. I wouldn't take a vacation to Hawaii if someone was going to give
Fully
it to me.
paid. Yeah.
Fully paid.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would rather be standing in that. You know what I'm saying? And that's what you're saying.
Right. And I vividly remember Christmases, especially for some reason it was Christmas Day, which is a huge thing in my family. Everyone comes over. I would sneak out for like 3 hours at some point, and I'd be on the south side of Chicago, like 64th and Halsted, in areas that are just like the worst kind of areas. Like the dichotomy between being at my house with the family atmosphere and the wholesome like Christmas atmosphere, to then going to the south side where it's just desolate, and it's just you're just like the life is sucked out of you, but you're not even cognizant of it. I'm not even thinking about that. I'm actually so excited to go there that I'm willing to leave like this great experience back home, and I'm just like, fuck it. I don't care how long it's going to take me to go, and I'm going to be there. It might take 2 hours, and I get back, and I'm like, where'd you go? And I'll make up some, ridiculous story about Christmas, and there's some place open.
Any type of excuse to get it, man. And you could just get it anywhere. It's a guaranteed thing. It's not like with getting pharmaceuticals. It's like pharmacy's not open today. I don't have the script from the doctor. But Heroin Highway, dude, you could just go and get it anytime. Did they have work hours or was it any time?
So the way
here in this locally, like the what are they called? The guys that are usually pushing it here, the Hondurans that are pushing it here. You know, they usually kind of have like their work hours like 9 to 5, and it cuts off. It's crazy.
Union
it's like
set up.
It's like that. It's like that. It's like nope. We'll see you tomorrow morning. It's like there's business that is waiting for you. That at least that's when I was getting the stuff, and it wasn't Hondurans then. It was more Mexicans. This is not to say anything race wise. This is just how it's currently happening. But when you have that, then yeah, dude, it opens up every holiday to go get dope. Well, and every holiday, any opportunity you're gonna.
And there was never a time, especially when I was motivated, and by motivated I mean dope sick. Like there was never a time I went more than 15 minutes that I had to go look, because it's kind of like a unwritten rule, a little bit of an unwritten rule where it's like you go to the west side because, like I said, it's the open air and you can get it, where the south side you more have to know someone, and that's kind of why it's so deadly right now, is because the gangs, which I don't know, there's several of them, I don't know, I'm not up on that, but
Vice Lords, GD,
yeah, right, all of them, and basically what it is, it's like it used to be west side where it was prime territory, and they still obviously fight over that, but now it's like south side, it's like they want to be the guy that's known, the brand, basically. And that's what they're fighting over, and it's just it's like the violence is unreal.
Wow.
I mean, it's like I've personally seen a few people just getting shot at, everything, and it's just like
I had heard that you had a pretty interesting story about that. Actually, why don't you go into it?
About
didn't you end up getting shot?
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us this story?
So, 64th and Arlington is where it happened, and I known a friend who was not. He wasn't really a friend. He was an acquaintance. So, and I had recently quit, and then I went in, and I hadn't known anybody at the time, so I didn't have any contacts. We drove over to an area, and I knew this guy was kind of shady, and he asked me, "Hey, how much do you want?" And I gave him. He calls the guy, and I can hear him talking to him, and it's going back and forth about like, well, and I can hear him kind of like trying to, placate him basically, like, oh yeah, no, it's good, and I'm like, all right, like thinking whatever, yeah, like I mean, I had a suspicion, you have that little sense of it, but like you don't really know. So we go over there, I give it to him, and this guy parks where we pull in, and it's like a dead end street. It's weird. They have these just straight up dead ends. It's not like a cul-de-sac. So he parks facing it, which and anybody that seems to have common sense, especially if you're in the world of drugs, you'd think you don't want to be facing a dead end for a multitude of reasons. Cops, robbery, getting robbed, all that stuff. So he's facing that way. I was like, hey, face the other way. He's like, oh, it's good. So the guy comes up. I see him do the handoff. And the guy said, they're all here this time. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, I had that bad feeling. Oof. And he knew. And then, so he gets the handoff, gets it, and he starts this. he turns a 3-point turn into a 10-point turn. And it takes way longer than it should. And I see the guy behind him rifling through the money, like counting it quickly. And I can see him, like, it's almost like you have that ability to sense when somebody's getting aggravated. And I could see him getting aggravated, and I was like, "Oh fuck!" I'm like, "Dude, get the fuck out of here! Like, we need to go. Wow. We need to go now." And then he basically, what happened was, I see him reach in his waist, and I was like, "Dude, this guy's gonna fucking shoot us! Like, he's going to shoot us, And like, I'd never been shot at. I'd heard it and like been around it, I guess you can say, but never like really. So I see him pulls the gun out. I hear and see the muzzle flash of the first one, and it obviously went over, side. It doesn't. I don't know where it went. Right. Didn't come near us. Second one, I hear it hit the back window, and it just shatters. And then I felt like a kind of like just a basic pressure on my knee, and excuse me, and like I grabbed it, but there was so much adrenaline going on, and I was sick, and just whatever. it didn't hurt. It was pressure. And I was like, dude, I think I got shot. And they're like, no, man, no, it's just glass. And I was like, yeah, it could be just glass. And I mean, it was bleeding just a tiny, tiny bit. So, we get back to like out of that area, and I feel like my knee, I'm in the back seat. So I feel like my knee is like, I can't move it. And I'm thinking like, it's just adrenaline. Like I'm just freaked out. And then I realize like after I do what I do, I get myself well. I realized that like I'm like, no, I can't move my knee. Like I can't, like it was jointed, so it was like stuck in like a kind of almost like a I don't know what kind of angle it was exactly, but it wasn't. It was like partially bent. And then it took me a long time. It took me 2 weeks because I knew if I went to the hospital, they'd ask questions I didn't want to answer, and I was using, so I was like. To show you like the insanity of it, I was more concerned about, like I almost forgot about the fact that there was something lodged in my knee, and I was more concerned about using. And then like even the day I went to the hospital, I was like, all right, I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna just tell him I work for my dad who owns a construction company. I'm gonna tell him it was a redhead, one of the like blank 22 cartridges. And luckily the guy I found this out later, but he was using a 22. He had a 22 pistol, luckily. So I found out. I was like, I knew that they were blank 22 cartridges in the redheads that they used to nail like wood floors into concrete. Right. So I was like, I'm gonna use that. Say it was a ricochet. So I went in, he took it out, and it ended up just being basically a fragment that was put in, in the joint. Got that taken out
of the 22 round.
Yeah. And then once I got that taken out, I was just like, and the thing is, like, I tell that, like, for so long I told that as like, oh yeah, believe it or not, like this, you know what I mean? It's just like this story happened to me, or this incident happened to me, and it was never like, damn, dude,
like it was like normal.
Yeah, like it was almost like a badge of honor. You know what I mean? Like, and that was another thing is I used to like get off as much as getting high. I'd get high about going into these areas that are like the highest crime rate. They're calling a war zone and shit. And I'm like, I can just go in there and get out no problem. And that's the thing, like that.
I'm not your typical white boy. I got
right,
this
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like I know these guys, man.
These are the homies, man.
And the thing is, what's so stupid about that was I'm just grabbing my leg now because I'm thinking about it. But what's stupid about that is that happened, and then I would say there was 3 or 4 times where I was just absolutely beaten, broken ribs. Yeah,
jeez,
a couple times.
You got beat.
Yeah, oh yeah, beat.
Just in getting drugs. I mean,
and when Robert Taylor Holmes were still around, I got pistol whipped right here.
Yeah,
broke my nose. Went back the next.
Kept going back.
So what happened was this. One of the times and this was over on the west side. It was I got beaten down. This is like all my ribs are fucked, and like, but I was dope sick, so that's what I was concentrating on. Went back to the ATM, got another couple $100, and went like right back to the area because like I knew that was just kind of like a rogue posse of guys that just did that. That just kind of prey on certain.
Were they
areas.
robbing you? Was that what it was? Yeah.
Yeah, that's happened to me several times.
So you went back. Did you score that time?
Yeah.
Or? Okay.
Yeah. It was like conditioning,
Insanity.
Like I knew if I went back, somebody. And that's the thing. It's like it's weird. The protection thing we were talking about just a second ago. It's not. It's their own self-interest. You know what I mean?
Right.
All these guys are businessmen and. In the real sense of the term, you know what I mean? They're worried about their product. They're worried about their customers in the sense of getting them back. So when something like that happens, the streets have their ability to deal with it. They deal with it in their way, and like you don't have that problem anymore. And
those guys had to pay for it. I'm
right.
Sure.
And out of the thousands of times that I'd went. There's a handful of times that just happened to be a lot more memorable because I felt physical pain.
Right.
And, it's something I remember.
That's how wild, going back to what we said, how wild that drug is. I mean, you get jumped, you get shot, and half hour later, you'll roll back in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, you get shot in the kneecap. Don't even care. I mean, you tell me it doesn't sound like you came up with some other idea basically because you're still thinking about, I just want to get high, so I'm not going to try to make this into a big deal of.
Well, and you don't want to send the cops after those guys.
Yeah, and I honestly, it's that, but I think the main thing was, I don't want to, you know, and what's going on in my head is like, well, what if they like, you know, make me
flag you or something.
Yeah, something exactly.
Make you go to treatment.
Right. That exactly. Yeah. Anything that's going to interrupt me being able to get drugs the next day.
Right. Yeah.
And like I that's just all it was. And then so all those stories happened in my whole 13 years of using. So but like to go back to the beginning, like I said, I had that visceral experience of using right outside of US Cellular, which like
in the Chrysler.
Yeah, I can still right now. Yeah, like, you know what I mean? It's like it's weird if I get a certain temperature outside, or like I hear a certain like wind blowing through certain leaves, or like just whatever.
That was the same that day.
Yeah, exactly. Chance, I can just, you know what I mean? It's that like, it's just that fucking.
Yeah.
Apologize about the swearing, but that power, man. And so that picked up really quickly, and then as far as the, I went within about a month. I was like off, and then I actually, what's funny is like I tried to go back to OxyContin, and I was using plenty, like a lot, and when I realized after like 2
white
days,
or of white or of the oxys. Okay.
After I was using the white, I went back.
To go back to a huge amount. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, it didn't matter how much I did. I could break up like 3 or 4 of them, do them, but I'd still be sick within like 10 minutes. Jeez. So I was like, damn, that shit is strong. So I went back, kicked it off, and just went tumbling down. And then about, what was it? Probably like 4 months into that, I was going on a cruise with my family. And it was going to be, I think it was either a 7 or a 10-day cruise. I don't remember. But like, you know, as we do, I'd planned, you know, I'm like, well, shit, I got to get this much, you know. So I ended up bringing like, I think it ended up being like 14 grams of powder with me. Wow. Through customs.
A lot of powder.
Yeah,
man.
Like through customs.
That's a half ounce.
It was so
a half ounce of powder, that's a lot.
Yeah, it was insane. Like I had it stashed in 3 different areas. So in my mind, I'm thinking like, well, if they find one, I'll have the other 2. Not like if they find one, I'm going to jail.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm on the cruise, and it's the last night, and this, for whatever, you know, we happened to like run into like a storm, the outskirts of a storm. And I'm walking around on the deck, and like it's getting pretty like rough. And like I can't remember. I think it might have been my room key to go pay for food or whatever. But I go to pull it out, and I just happen to pull out the like what I have left in a little plastic baggie, and it falls on the deck, and it's windy as hell, you know. So like this is another like very visceral memory of it. I see it starting to blow over to the railing, and I lunged at it and grabbed it. Like it was literally like an action movie where you like grab it like right as it's about to fall. And like I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, I honestly like I don't think I would have, but if it would have been just a reactionary thing, if it would have went over, I might have gone over with it. Like not even, and I mean like
so crazy.
And it sounds,
I get it. That's the sick thing.
Yeah, I really think I would have done it. And
hell yeah, you would have. The chance of just being able to get it, and then whatever life-saving thing had to happen, right? I don't care if they have lifeboats after me. I got my shit.
Yeah, I would have went into full like Navy SEAL mode, going down underneath, finding it. It didn't matter. I'd find it somehow, and then
drowned.
Right,
right. We're so sick,
but I wouldn't be sick when I drowned. And then so I ended up running out a little bit early, and the trip back. And this is another thing. The Memphis airport I remember very vividly because I was sick as hell. and it smells like rancid barbecue. And I don't know why I had like I just had this horrible like sense of it. And so I'm sick as hell, and my family's pretty naive at this point, so they don't know. I'm laying on literally like sprawled out. Like the paramedics came one time because they thought, like, I don't know what they thought, I was having a heart attack or something. And I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm just really hungover and blah, blah, blah. So we land, and I have someone meet me at the airport, come back, get well.
In Chicago.
Yeah,
right.
When we land in Chicago, sorry. And then, but then like that kind of kicked off a little bit of suspicion. And my dad's pretty street smart guy, and like my mom was kind of like, that seemed a little more than.
And they had to seen you nod or something on that trip, don't you think?
Yeah, and it was kind of, I think, and this being like I said, it was like 13 years ago. So, as much as heroin's become a problem now, and it was then, it's always been a problem, but it wasn't as prevalent. Like, it wasn't as on the news, all that stuff. So they start getting suspicions, and then I remember I got sick again, and this was like probably the third time, but the first time I really got sick, like it was 48 hours in, I'm like, I'm just gonna chill, and I mean it's that like wishing you were dead feeling,
right?
Like the worst. You can't explain it. Like it's one of those things you don't wish on your worst enemy. It's like the flu times as many as you can multiply it by, and every like just miserable feeling. So I finally go, I tell my mom, and I'm like, look, I got to go to the hospital. She's like, why? And I'm like, I was doing drugs. And she's like, oh, I kind of thought so. And she's like, what were you doing? I was like, heroin. And that like blew her mind, absolutely blew her mind. Like it was such a like shock. So I go to the hospital, and like this is something my mom tells too. I remember the nurse was like, oh, is this your first time detoxing off heroin? And me and my mom were like, yeah, last time, you know what I mean? And she's just like, she wasn't like doing it in accusatory. She's just like, oh, are you aware of the, like, what's to come, basically. And I was like, no, I was like, yeah, it's my first time. This will be my last time. And, she kind of like had this like knowing look, like, I hope so. Like, I hope that's what it is.
Better be.
Yeah, like, I hope for your sake.
You weren't even thinking about like, I got to work on this. Like,
right.
It's going to be hard to stop.
All I could think about was like, just shoot me up with something like that addict. Shoot me up with something that's going to make me feel better.
Right.
And of course you get that thing about, you go through it once and you're like, oh, fuck, I will never go through that again. But as soon as like, even when you start turning the corner and you're able to drink water or food or whatever, you start going like, yeah, it was bad. But then it's like that underlying mental thing that goes on with addiction where you're just like, shit, like, but if I got to live like this the rest of my life, like, well, maybe it's not the worst. You know what I mean? It's like, comes from natural plants, so it can't be the worst.
Comes
just
from
whatever.
Flowers.
Yeah,
They're so
exactly.
pretty.
Just whatever.
Poppies are pretty.
Yeah, anything you have to. And then so I got out of the detox, and my mom goes online and she looks up rehabs. And this is the next interesting part is she finds a place called Narconon, which which I know how ruthless the Scientologists are, so hopefully they take this in good stride. But they basically
this is good.
She didn't know anything about rehabs, and they preach their 80% success rate, blah blah blah. So she looks at a few, being the mom, and like reviewing things. She's like, you can go to Grosse Pointe, Grand Rapids, Michigan, something like that, somewhere in Oklahoma, place in
remote locations.
Yeah, or Newport Beach, California. And I was like, and it was October or something, getting cold. And I'm like, I'm going to Newport, So I get there, and this place, and this is the first place I'd ever been to, so I didn't know what to expect.
Right.
And it was like as soon as I get there, just this like, I'm going into it like, okay, I don't know shit. Like I was just using heroin for like however long it was, so like maybe they know something I don't. And I get there, and like the first thing I find out is a kid did a header. The bed I took, kid did a header off the 3rd floor balcony of this house, and like that's the bed I took. And then another kid.
Suicide?
No, he didn't die.
Oh,
he
gotcha.
tried.
Yeah,
but and they don't believe in any kind of mental health anything.
No
you know what
doctors.
I mean? No, it's they don't have any medical personnel at the. I mean, it may have changed now, but like when I went, there was no medical oversight at all. And then I got there. Another kid I met, this really cool kid from California. I'd luckily gone through a Suboxone detox at a separate facility that they kind of offered as like a alternative before going there, because they don't offer you anything except this vinegar-based detox drink, and they don't offer you any kind of sleep medication, any of that stuff. So I went there. This kid was coming right off of heroin, and he was just like dying. You know what I mean? I felt bad for him. So he was there for about a day, and then they decided to move him down to this. They were going to take him to the San Diego location. And when they went, they were driving him down there, and then later that day they came back, and somebody asked like, "Hey, what's up?" And they came back, and the kid, what he did was like on the way there, like in the middle of the desert area, he said I had to go take a pee, and he was like so desperate to get out of there that he just booked. He just did a runner.
Just split.
And they just left. Like there's no responsibility. There's no not even professionalism, ethics, really.
Wow.
And it's ironic because that's what they call the punishment is ethics when they do any kind of punishment in the Narconon. But so I started off, and I'm there 17 days in the beginning, and I hadn't slept for 17 days, which I know people I've heard, oh, it's impossible. That's blah blah blah. But it's possible. Like I can attest, it's possible.
17 days.
17 days. Like where you're imagining shit. Like you're so tired that you're just like languid. Like every cell in your body is just wants to fall. But like I just couldn't do it. Like I couldn't sleep. And finally, and what they'll start you off. They start you off with this stuff called TRs. I can't remember what that stands for, but basically, it's kind of a psychological breakdown, and what they'll do is they'll sit you like face to face with somebody. And starting off, it's just to stare. You have to stare into their eyes without blinking. I think you can blink, but they try to tell you to refrain without making any kind of a movement to be able to just. They claim to be comfortable with yourself. So it starts with that, and then it progresses, and then it progresses into verbal abuse, basically. Like they just
break you down.
Yeah, anything is game. Anything. And they even use a lot of client on client stuff. And another aspect of it is the counselors, or whatever they called them, were people who just graduated the program. So
just recently.
Literally
like the session before you.
Right. What they would do is they would graduate, then the people in charge would call up their significant others, whatever it was, and say, "Hey, we don't think he's ready or she's ready to come home. We think it'd be really beneficial if they stayed on here." So like people who are kind of stuck in a situation where they can't go back or they have nowhere to go are kind of stuck there.
They have to be there, yeah.
Right.
What other choice they have?
Exactly. So that's
and
the
in
kind
middle
of
nowhere.
Yeah, that's the kind of in Newport they're not, but
right.
in some places I've heard in Newport apparently was the most liberal of them, and I've heard like horror stories about other places. But so anyway, you have the staff are just literally clients who had just graduated. So say like I just got done with IOP, now I'd be running groups.
Wow.
And so they have 8 books, which are all written by L. Ron Hubbard. And basically what they do with the TRs, I'll get back to that. I was kind of wandering. They break you down in like a psychological way where they stare at you, then they start verbally abusing you, and the staff members give all the info that you gave them when you first start. You know how so many places, exactly, your assessment. So you're giving all this like vulnerable information. You're telling them all this personal stuff, and all of a sudden you start hearing it coming out of these people, like, you know, so there's
Like,
no
whoa,
confidentiality.
How'd you know that?
Yeah. Some shit.
And you're just a client, dude. You were where I was a month ago.
Exactly. And you're sitting there, like, you know, going through fucking detox still. You're going through, like,
paranoid as hell.
Exactly. You don't know what's going on. And I mean, it's straight up, like, it's evil. Like, that's what it is. It's fucking evil. And like, and I pretty quickly caught on to something was wrong, but it was like, you know, like, I had that mentality, like, man, I was doing heroin, and, you know, I was totally, like, I had no idea what I was doing in my life. You know what I mean? Like, I was totally off the rails. So maybe this is what I need, you know? And so I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And so anyway, they do the TR thing. You have to get through that. And then their second book is sauna, where you sit in a sauna 5 hours a day,
Right.
take niacin and potassium. You take niacin beforehand to sweat, like, to open up your pores, but they'd give you so much. You'd be taking thousands of milligrams and literally breaking out in hives.
Yeah.
So because it's over the counter, it's okay.
Yeah.
Is that the logic? It doesn't require a medical professional? Because it's a pharmaceutical.
Right.
It's just not required. It doesn't require a prescription.
Right. And yeah, basically, and like I said, they have no medical, or they, at the place I was at, I should say, they had no medical oversight. And I mean, you had people who weren't sleeping, so they were running over to, like, 7-Eleven getting the NyQuil, you know,
Right.
the cough syrup shit to sleep, not to do anything else. And you have, like, all this animosity going on underlying, where it's just like people are just, like, wound so tightly and already in a vulnerable situation, that it's just like, it's like inevitable, everything just falls to shit. So I'd say I went in the sauna thing. I finally slept, got myself kind of in a good position. And then there was, like, a multitude of other shit that happened. Like, a few times I remember I was wandering around when I wasn't sleeping, and I heard a bunch of people laughing, and I go in, and it's the staff members, and they have everyone's file, and they're just laughing about people's personal shit. Like, that was just, I mean, and like I said, you know, this is like 13 years ago, so there's a lot that I forgot. But, you know, that's kind of.
Did you have to hold the things?
No.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
right?
the e-meters.
Yeah,
no,
the e-meters.
No, that would be like
the next step.
Yeah,
the next step.
Yeah, that would be like they literally try to indoctrinate you.
Yeah, they were trying to push you into their religion.
Absolutely.
For sure.
And this was before any kind of publicity, negative publicity about Scientologists. You know what I mean? It was, I mean, not that there wasn't, I'm sure, but it's not, like, known where
it was contained.
Right. And it's not known how it is now that they're, you know, kind
now
of.
There's been documentaries.
Right.
And internet exposure.
Right. What they do. So, sorry, I lost topic.
You're good. No, so you were saying that you don't remember much because it was 13 years ago, but that you do remember the staff members and kind of their heckling at your weaknesses
and all that, you know. And then so I stayed for, I think it was, like, almost 2 months, and then finally, like, I got picked up late from my place, and it was the driver who was picking us up because they'd have these off-campus apartments, and we'd go to this one building, this one house on the beach that they had, and he was late picking me up because I'd been the only person that was going to the program that day. So I get there, and they're like, "You're going to be on ethics," which is ironic. And I'm like, "What? You know, because you were late, blah, blah." I'm like, "But it wasn't, you know," and it's like, "Well, you have to take responsibility." Okay, all right. I was like, "All right, fuck it." So they sent me outside to scrub.
I'm sorry that my ride was late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And they sent me outside to scrub the fence with a toothbrush. And that is what made me leave. Like, that, I was just like, all right, this, like, I started sleeping and my brain started working and shit. So I was just like, all right, man, that's it. That's as far as I'm going.
Did you have any breakthrough, or were you at this point you were just resentful and just
ready
to use?
The only breakthrough I had was that I started sleeping, and that it was the first time in, like, probably 3 or 4 years sleeping without any chemicals.
Gotcha.
Which was, that's the only, like, to put a bright spin on it, would be the only thing that I got out of that. Came back and I used immediately. And
Right.
I don't think it was hours. Went through that. Then went through like a myriad of a few different detoxes, rehabs. I think I would say the total is probably like 9 inpatients, probably close to double that in outpatient programs. Like some of those were just like immediately following the inpatients, and then some were just an attempt at outpatient. And then I fell into I actually went to a rehab, got out, was hanging out with someone from there, and like they say, like rehab's like a graduation to bigger and better. Sometimes it can be, you know what I mean?
You know, using buddies. Yeah.
Right. So started introducing me to needles and injecting, and I was like, okay. And like I'd always had an issue because of I have what's called like deep spongy veins, so they can be hard to attain, and I have problems with blood circulation that I had before all my issues with my arm. And so like it would be really difficult, but I finally did get it a couple times, and that was like another epiphany event where I was like, oh shit, like this is immediate, this is even better. So I started doing that, but then pretty quickly I started basically doing what skin popping, like intermuscular using, not like intravenously.
That's the term, skin popping.
Yeah, that's what it was.
You still get high when you do it like that?
Yeah.
Isn't that when you get people get the sores and stuff when they're missing a vein or whatever?
Right. It starts like an abscess.
Yeah, abscess is where I was going. Right.
Yeah, that can be from that. The skin popping is more like I don't know, I'm not sure. This is just kind of like my guess from experience, but like I think the abscesses are just something different as far as like the vein issue, where skin popping is more basically just like if you were to do like how people do steroids, like they just stick it in their ass basically, or whatever. So this is similar to that. You don't quite get the same acuteness of the high, but like you still get it. And
it's in your system.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. And so it would get you well, like you'd feel fine from it. And because I'd used up any vein I could like fairly quickly, I started skin popping, and then my arm would get bad because what would happen is like you'd get like I would do it, and then like maybe like the fingernail size area would turn purple. It would turn purple, and then like I would just keep doing it there. So like then it would just progress into like getting bigger and bigger, and then eventually what would happen is like that layer of skin and flesh would just die.
Jeez. And
it would turn like black. Like and the way I described it is like if you look at like a black purse or black leather or something, whatever, I used to say it looked like crocodile skin or something, but then everyone mistook that from me using the crocodile drug, that skin eating shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, but that's what it looked
black
like.
Crocodile skin.
Right.
Like reptile skin, but bigger.
Right.
Bigger scales.
Yeah, like that dried out leather look, basically. And that would start.
And literally black.
Black. Oh, yeah, black. Straight black. I mean,
Goodness.
It was black. Wish I had pictures. I think I can find somehow to get them. But, and that would basically start, and then I would just move on to another area. And then, like, that went for a while, and then what I did was went to the hospital because my arms got really bad. I forgot how it happened, but somebody, my family or friends, whatever it was, were like, hey, like, I'm wearing sweatshirts in July, and it's like, why can't you ever, just shit like that. And it got suspicious, and they saw it and were like, holy shit, and of course me, I'm like,
that.
Yeah, and I'm just like, yeah, I guess I'll go to the hospital, but I'm not staying overnight. You know what I mean? Like, so luckily I went in to Loyola in Chicago, and they happen to have like a really amazing burn clinic, and the burn doctor there, I can't remember his name, but anyway, he debrided it. So that's kind of what this side is.
I'm gonna go get the camera if you don't mind.
Yeah, definitely.
You can keep talking.
So like the right side, it's like healed over, and it kind of looks like eaten away almost, I guess. That is what it looked like after the first time, and that's also what my right arm looked like after that incident. So and then this happened again just a few months later, and I went back in, and the doctor was like, he's like, if you do this again, I'm not gonna see you, because like I was doing this to myself. It wasn't like a accident or whatever.
Yeah.
So he's just like, he was just kind of fed up with it, and just like, I'm not gonna see you again. So I'm like, all right, like I get that.
Let me see both arms if you don't mind. Yeah. So doctor was saying, I'm not gonna see you.
Yeah, he's like, basically, I'm not gonna. I don't want to. I don't want to.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not gonna like, you waste my time with it, because there's people here that are like just in horrific accidents and kids that have these horrible burns, and you're taking up my time.
Oh wow.
You know what I mean? Like, he didn't say that, but like I could get, you know what I mean?
Right.
I could get that, and I understood that, and I was like, all right, but of course it's not gonna stop me. So I went back out, started using again, but then I basically just used my left arm only. And I started in at this point, because they debrided a few areas, and like the flesh can grow back, but it doesn't grow back to normal. So like
Right.
once you take a few layers off, those layers don't necessarily come back.
Right.
The way that, you know what I mean? And when the skin grows over, it kind of turns like elastic, and it almost like, holds it down. So on this side, when I went back out, I started using really hard on this side, and what happened was, pretty quickly, because I'd already eroded away so much of it, my tendons started getting really bad. And what I would do, because like there wasn't a whole lot left, I would just, when it would like turn totally black, and I could no longer, literally, like the needle tip would bend if I tried to put it in.
Oh hell.
Can you imagine that?
It would be like I would take an X-Acto knife and just debride it myself, because it was dead and I wouldn't really feel it. Occasionally I'd hit a nerve, which fucking is the kind of pain that it's just indescribable.
It's torture pain.
Yeah,
That's
no,
how they
it
torture people.
really,
It's finding
yeah,
nerves.
it was, and I'd be like, oh shit, I gotta get through this to be able to, you know what I mean? Like,
Then I can get well. That's
right.
gonna make me feel good.
so like, oh fuck, I can tell, like I'm sweating right now thinking about it, like that kind of, it's just horrible, horrible pain. So I would do that, X-Acto knife it out, and then just keep going, like work on to the next layer, basically.
Wow, man.
And what happened was, like, because I'd gotten down so far, my tendons in this hand, all the extender tendons, would die off just like the skin would. And at certain points, I was literally like, it was like the consistency of beef jerky, almost like really thin, flaky beef jerky. And like I would just grab it with my fingers and pick it up and pull out a tendon. And like the first few times I did it, I didn't realize it was a tendon. So, and then I started realizing when my hand would start, like, it progressed pretty quickly to like where I only had flexor tendons, so my hand like turned into a claw.
You pulled a tendon out.
Yeah, they were dead completely. Like they wasn't even really connected anymore. It was just, dead.
Yeah.
Oh my hell.
Dead tendon. And I basically, what I would do, and I started getting down to bone, because like I had no flesh left, and I started getting to a point where it was like there were like quarter-sized holes that I could just touch my bone, and the bone started going black, and I'd get like these black bone chips that were just dead.
Yeah.
And like it was in at this point, like it was rancid, like
So
it
your
was
bone was turning black.
Yeah, it was like it was
necrotic as you can get.
Oh, it completely, yeah. The skin necroted long ago, and started turning into like osteomyelitis.
Necrotizing fasciitis was already past that point.
Past that, I mean, I still had it all over, but like like where it was progressed the worst, it had gone into my bone, into my bloodstream. And then I actually remember one time I got pulled over it's like 16th and Pulaski, which is over near the west side, a real bad area, and it was like 11:30 at night. Got pulled over, hadn't actually gotten anything yet, but did have a little bit with me. So the the cop, they know what you're doing there, you know what I mean? So he's
Of course,
just
you
like,
don't fit in.
right. And he pulls puts me in cuffs. He's like, I'm just putting you in cuffs. I'm gonna put you in the back seat. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, he's like, what's in there? And I was like, I got a pack of needles. I got a pack of darts in there. So you're gonna find those. And then I don't remember if I actually knew I had like a half a bag or not, but just like a tiny little amount. Finds it.
Probably didn't know. You probably would have used it by
Yeah,
then.
no, I really don't remember. But anyway, he finds like, like the whole setup, all the gear. And he comes back and he's like, what, like blah, 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 blah. And then he's like, and this is July or this is summertime too. And I'm wearing a sweatshirt again. And I remember it was like this Illinois sweatshirt, this orange sweatshirt. And like there were little, like blotches of blood, but also like goo, like black goo that was coming. You know what I mean? Just like body fluid, basically. He's like, what's going on? He has me pull his arm up, and this is like a cop on the west side that sees shootings all the time. He's just like, holy shit. He's like, calls his partner over. He's like, look at this. And like his partner like played the bad cop. He's like, you're fucked, man. You're gonna die. Your arm's gone. We should take you to the hospital right now. And then, of course, whenever anything's going on and there's lights going on, another car pulls up.
Right.
And they're like, man, you got to come see this. So it turned into like a fucking circus attraction. And like
a museum.
Yeah, by that point, like 2 more cops. So there's like 4 or 5 cops just standing around me. They all have gloves on. They're all making sure not to like, then washing their hands with shit. And
so they don't get dirty.
Right.
But at least they get to see something cool.
Right. Yeah. And they're like, oh, I need to use the phone. Or I'm going to use your phone. So they go through my contacts and call everybody that I recently called, not to find my drug dealer, to call people who knew me to tell me like, hey, he's going to die. His arm's about to fall off.
Yeah.
So they contact people. I think they talked to my mom or my sister. I don't remember. And so then finally, like, after that is when it was like the impetus to finally get it, like going to the hospital. And I remember I went, and the thing is, before this, I was so, like, resigned and apathetic that I didn't care. Like, I knew in my head, because of the fact that I'd gone through this before with my arms and how bad it looked and how bad it smelled. Like, it was so
dying.
It was so bad. I was so unhealthy. So, I was kind of resigned to the fact that they were going to amputate it. So literally, like, I would go through like almost a panic attack every 15 minutes. So I'd have to just keep using every 15 just to like get through the day and be like, fuck it, get to a point where I'm high enough. I don't care that it's going to happen. And so like, and I'm laying in bed, like going through shirts and just like, you know what I mean? Just like, it was just horrible. It was like a triage or something where I'm just like, throwing shit away. And I remember I made like this like pathetic attempt. I had this stuff called Silvadene, which is it's kind of like zinc oxide. It's like a super powered Neosporin type shit. And I remember I was just putting that on like the dead. You know what I mean? Like just hoping and being like, oh yeah, naively thinking it's gonna help. Like, and I'm just literally it's like a Band-Aid on a bullet wound type thing.
Yeah.
And so I go to the first hospital. And the first hospital, they walk in, they see me, and immediately the doctor's like, holy shit, like we have to amputate it. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. Go to a second hospital. Basically exactly the same, we have to amputate. I'm like, fuck no, I'm not doing this. Like, and then I finally go back to Loyola, which is where I would go originally. And I didn't go back there because the doctor had said, and I'm not putting this on him. I'm putting, I'm just saying
your
like,
shame.
Yeah, it was the reason why I didn't go is because exactly. I didn't want to go in there and have it so much worse than it was. So I go in there, they see me, the ER doctor, they start looking at me and at this point I'm like, if they tell me it has to be amputated, I'm doing it because I'm not, 3 hospitals, it's like.
And I trust this one. They've done it right before.
And yeah, I mean, like it's like if they're telling you 3 different medical opinions or like we have to take your arm, and the ER doctor's like, he didn't want to like say it, but like he's like, well, first we just need to get you in here to be healthy, because at the time I weighed like I think I was 124 or 126 pounds. And I mean, like, I wasn't white. I was like ashen gray, like that, almost that like dead pale skin.
Yeah, it's a walking corpse.
Yeah, and I was anemic to the point where, like, I guess at the time my blood like however it goes, like your blood level or whatever should have been like around 14 to 16 or something, and mine was like 2.4. And they're like,
a seventh of
yeah,
what it should be.
It's like a they literally said it like a few times.
Medical miracle.
Yeah, and they had to put me in the ICU and pump me full of fluids and stuff just to get my body healthy enough to do a surgery, because it would have gone into shock. So they get me on vancomycin, which is like this insanely powerful IV antibiotic, and start pumping me full of fluids, everything. And I see the burn doctor, and he comes in.
Same guy.
Yeah. He comes in and he says, he's like, man, like, I get it. He's like, I feel bad. And like, he felt really like it hurt. I could tell it hurt him. And he came in and he's like, look, I know what I told you before. Like, I know I told you we can't do it, or I won't do it. I won't. He's like, but I honestly can't. I can't do anything for you. Like, I can't do anything for you. Like, it's not medically responsible. I can't do anything for you. We have to amputate it so you can live. Like, because they done tests. I had the osteomyelitis, so it's in my bone marrow. I had the blood, I can't remember what it's called, the blood infection. And, like, they're like, if that gets to your heart, which we think it could be already, you can die, like, literally right now. Like, as soon as we get done talking, you can be dead. So I was like, I was like, all right, fine, and I finally signed off on the little release thing, and they're like, all right, so they get me healthy enough to be able to, my body to withstand surgery, and I'm not going to go into shock. And like I said, I'd signed off on the release. So they come in, and Loyola's was a Jesuit,
right?
And it's also a teaching hospital too, and,
right?
So like it was just like it was like a kind of a spiritual thing going on too. And then I was just like, it was kind of first hitting me, and they're like, okay, we're going to schedule the surgery tomorrow. We need to get it off as quick as possible.
So they're talking about amputation.
Yeah.
So you're ready.
Full amputation at the elbow.
You're ready for amputation.
I'm ready.
On one of your arms.
Yeah.
Wow.
Ready to wake up the next day and not have an arm. Like, not ready, but like,
yeah,
resigned to, like, I'm like, okay, well,
surrendered. I
can't. What can I do? Like all these people are telling me this that are medical professionals, and it's like, and like it's one of those things. Like I'd always, not always, but I'd felt that it was coming.
You're pulling out black tendons,
yeah,
and black bone chips,
right? I mean, looking like it was like something out of a zombie movie, like literally something out of like a special effects.
Yeah, but real.
And so I'm at the hospital, and like I have support there, and I'm kind of just broken down, and I remember, I can't remember who it was like my mom maybe advocating and me advocating to the doctor, just like, is there anything this is surgery scheduled for 6 a.m. the next morning.
Is this an orthopedic?
No, this is the burn doctor still.
Oh, still, okay.
And he's, and I'm like literally begging, like in tears, just emotional, like, there's gotta be something, you know what I mean? Like, I know I don't deserve it necessarily, but like, there's gotta be something. And he's just like, the only thing I can think of is to call in a plastic surgeon. And I was like, all right, let's do it. So, and this is probably, I don't even know, 9 o'clock at night maybe, and surgery is scheduled for 6 a.m. the next day.
Yeah.
So this plastic surgeon comes in with a nurse at midnight.
No orthopedic. They have no orthopedics there.
They did, but because of the area they were using a plastic surgeon, I'm not really sure why they didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
My dad is orthopedic specialty from there to there. That's all he does.
Okay.
All he did. I'm just curious.
So, yeah, and I don't necessarily remember.
But they might have been tied up.
And they may have been consulting,
right,
because I'm not really sure. But anyway, he comes in at midnight, sees it
6 hours before.
Yeah, he sees it and is like, okay. He's looking at it. He does some pictures and different, whatever you had to do. And he's just kind of looking at me like, you know, he's like, I don't know. He's like, I don't know if it's medically responsible to even attempt this, you know? He's like, I just don't know. And I don't want to give you false hope, so I'm not sure. And to go back a second, like, in the 2 days going up to this, they had, like, the biomechanical people from Chicago Prosthetics, or I think that's what it's called, in measuring, like, doing measurements and, like, showing me brochures of my new bionic arm and shit like that. And so it's starting to really hit home, and I'm just... And you know what's so strange is I didn't get dope sick the whole time I was... And I think it may have been because my body was so ill, but, like, I didn't get that dope sickness.
Wow.
And I didn't even realize that until, like, a few weeks into the hospital stay. So I go and, you know, and he comes in and he says, I really don't know. I'm not sure. Like, I don't know. I don't want to give you false hope. I'm not sure. So he leaves. And, you know, so I'm sitting there and like, it was like an angel, whatever, you know, and I had a nurse there.
Wow.
And then the priest came and saw me. He was coming in to see me, and I'm Catholic, you know, kind of almost in name only. But, you know, whenever you're in a situation like that, is like, you know, it's when you reach out, I guess, to something, just for some kind of hope.
Power, yeah.
Right. So he came in, and this nurse sat with me the whole time, all night, you know, and like, and just talked and, like, kept my mind off it. Like, she stayed, I can't remember, was it 2, whatever it was, she stayed like 4 hours after her shift just to, like, console. And I also had family, you know, so that I had all that. And then, so it's starting to come around time, and I'm like, they come in to get me at, like, I don't know, 5 o'clock or so, 5 a.m., and I'm, you know, just like, okay, and they put me on the other bed, and they start wheeling me out, and, you know, I still, like, remember them, like, running into little corners, not like, you know,
just
like
the
they
details.
were just minor little visceral things that happened. And they're bringing me into the OR, or the pre-op, and basically I hear one of them say, okay, something about debridement. And I'm like, okay, and I was like, what?
You're like, yeah, that means I'm not amputated.
Yeah, and they're like, no, it's going to be they're going to attempt a debridement. And I see Dr. Van Devender, who was the plastic surgeon. This guy is, like, you know, one of the heroes up there top, just a superhero type of dude. And I see him, and he's like, what we're gonna try to do, we're gonna try to cut it all out, and then we're gonna try to do skin grafts, free flaps, whatever we have to do, bone grafts. They were, you know, talking about taking bone from down here, which I'm assuming the orthopedic surgeon would have entered in at that point. So they're talking about all that stuff. And he comes in and he's just like, we're going to attempt it, like, but don't think this gets you totally out of the woods. And I'm just like, I don't care. Like, it was just like this,
You're
you
like,
know,
God bless you.
yeah,
That
this,
gets me
like,
emotional as hell.
yeah, like this moment where I'm just like, oh my God, like, there's something, like,
you have no reason you have to do this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the thing is, what he told me this about I ended up being in the hospital for 2.5 months, recovering and going through I think it ended up being 12 surgeries total, a bunch of debridements, cutting out the bone, all that shit. But he told me, like, I think it was a few days, week before, that he wasn't sure even before the surgery started. Like, he said, he's like, I didn't sleep all night. I was up all night. I called the hospital, like, whatever it was, like, I don't know if this was like hyperbolic and he was just kind of proving, but it's like, I called the hospital 15 minutes before I got there to say that, okay, yeah, we're going to switch the surgery from amputation. So,
Wow.
And like I said, I'm not sure, you know, it doesn't matter if it was hyperbolic or not. It was still, like, you know, it was powerful.
Shoot.
And he was like, and he told me all that, and he's like, I didn't know. Like, so they did the first one, and it looked a lot different, you know, and then progressively they kept doing them, and then they basically got to a point where they were, they're like, all right, what we're gonna do is they took a giant chunk out of my leg right here, about like 3/4 of an inch. Oh. So, to get flesh, to get everything they needed. And what the main thing was, they had to find a vein, like one vein that still worked, so it would take.
Yeah.
And
blood supply is everything. Yeah.
Exactly. And I wake up from the main free flap surgery. And I mean, like, that's another visceral thing is I remember excruciating pain. Like, it felt like someone took a samurai sword to, like, my arm, my legs, everything. It was so bad. And then I wake up and they come in and he's like, I still don't know if it's going to work because we found one tiny little vein. That's all we could find in your arm. It took us like an hour. It took it like an extra hour for them to be able to even find that. So they find it. They're pumping. They're doing like ultrasound on it to make sure it's pumping. Like they're coming in every 5 minutes to check that it's actually working. And then it like progressed, and then finally it took. And then I had the tendon surgery where they had to take tendons from down here, and put them up here as my extenders. And it physical therapy, and it's gotten back to I don't know, probably 70%. But and then so anyway, I'm in the hospital for like 2.5 months, and it's just progressively getting better. Like, it was a miracle that it even happened. I get out, I get back, I start using again. It was like that didn't deter me. I stayed clean for a while. And then I get back, I start using again, and I never shot up again. Oh, that's not true. I did one time. You can see right there the little failed experiment. Right. And I went back, did it, and I was just like, all right, that's crazy. I'm not going to do that. Yeah. But I went back and I was doing it, I was sniffing it. And I started up again, getting bad, then I started getting into Xanax. And it was like the combo. And then I finally, like, and there are several rehabs in this whole stint, but a year from this past June, so a little over a year and a couple months ago, I had my first overdose, which was like, that was such a crazy experience. I can't believe it was your first. Yeah, first, and it was such a crazy experience. Like, I mean, I don't know, it's one of those things where you go through it and then you're like, holy shit, like, that actually happened to me. You have that, like, invincibility thing where you're like, that's not going to happen. Like, I'm a smart I'm a smart heroin addict. Like, I know when my limit and shit like that. But it's just, like, it's not, and 13, 12 and a half something years, I'd never overdosed. And I'd done plenty to do that, to get to that point. But it never actually happened. So then when I finally did it and I woke up in the hospital, I woke up in the back of the ambulance thinking I was being kidnapped or some shit. And the only thing that was going through my head was, let me out because I have more that I have in my room, and I want to go do it. Yeah. And so they came, my sister had found me, and luckily she did. It was a total miracle that she even, like, checked on me. And they came in, the ambulance came in. I was out for like 30 minutes or something, like a long time, blue, like nothing. They couldn't find any veins anywhere. So what they finally ended up doing... They hit
you with Narcan, I'm guessing?
Yeah, they hit me with Narcan. Well, it's gone now, but they had to do a bone marrow stint, which is basically like I think they said 8-gauge, like, needle. Giant 8-gauge needle that's basically like a screw, really, more than anything, because they screw it into your bone to get into your bone marrow, because apparently, and like I said, I'm not a medical expert, but it's like the last bodily fluid that's flowing that can, like, I guess, flow through transfer. Exactly, that can transfer medication. Yeah, exactly.
So wait, you weren't able to hit with the nasal Narcan?
No.
Just weren't responsive to it.
Well, and honestly, I never really asked that, and I don't know if there's like a certain time limit, like, you know what I mean? Like, true. if your blood's been not flowing for a certain amount of time, like they can't do it. I don't know, but I know like it was out for a long time. So they did that. I woke up in the back of the ambulance, like I said, freaking out, just, not like violent, but just like it was, just crazy. It was going from being, because I remember it was the home run derby last year. I don't know why all these baseball references.
Yeah, dude, because that matters to you. You're remembering the things that matter to you before you go away.
And the thing is, I remember watching it, and I was watching the home run derby, and then I wake up in the back of the ambulance, and like I'm freaking out. Like I feel like I'm in I'm sure anybody that's had one can attest to it. You feel like you're in a bath of ice. You're so cold. Like I was so cold. I couldn't even, like it was the coldest I'd ever been in my life by far. So I wake up and I'm hearing shit. Like I can't hear out of one ear. I'm hearing like ringing and all kinds of weird shit. Wake up and then I get to the hospital. They do the detox, and it takes like about a day and a half before like my brain started functioning. Like I had all kinds of weird shit going on, like, and I'm like, damn, is this permanent? Like maybe I didn't have blood flow. Like the interruption of blood flow was too long to my brain. I'd have permanent damage.
Right.
So luckily it all comes back, and like, have this, it's a benefit, but sometimes it's a detriment because I have this insane ability to heal and get through shit. But so far it's been a benefit. Sometimes I feel like I can push it a little far, but anyway.
Because you're an addict.
Exactly. So I go do the detox thing, get through it, and then all right, I'm in the hospital, the same place I'd been like 4 other times, local hospital, and then I go home, and I'm looking at places like, and being the first time I'd overdosed, this was like a sobering thing for everybody. You know what I mean? Like everyone knew I had the problem, but like it was never, oh shit, like this is real. Like not it wasn't real before, but it's just like an extra layer.
Sure.
And so we're looking at different places, and I wanted to go. It's funny because like I wanted to go to this place in South Carolina that was more like almost work related type thing, where I'd have to get a job and live in this like environment. But I think it was a cousin had actually found Cold Creek out here.
Right.
And I'd been going to a cognitive behavioral therapist in Chicago, and she heard that I was coming, or that I was thinking about here, and she's like, absolutely, because she'd actually met somebody affiliated with Cold Creek at like a convention.
Right.
So I come out here last July. I'm up at the lodge up in Brighton and getting through everything, and I mean I say this all the time, and I've said this many times. Like I'm kind of professionally rehab. I'm a professional rehabber.
Yeah, you're savvy. You're really
because
savvy.
Yeah, I've been to so many, and there's plenty of places that care about your well-being, but it's like there's no place where it's so intrinsically like linked to every like level of your well-being, where in the continuity from going up there,
Sure.
coming down here,
Right.
and then incorporate, because like with the whole war thing,
Right.
it was like what we were talking about the other day. It was like when I first went through it, they didn't have anything to do with it, and then I started incorporating, and then when I went through it again recently, it had just started to like be meshed together.
Right.
And like I'd seen in sober living, because it was when they were separated, I'd seen the guys come back, obviously getting more fit and like feeling better, but like the way they felt every time they'd come home from the war thing, like, and the change in like just their mentality, right, and like their like happiness really was like so apparent that I have major aversion to working out. It's just hard for me to, I just don't have the motivation to do it. My bar is so low that
I know nothing about that.
that I just but it's like when you see that, and then you actually then you go and do it, and like I said, with going through Cold Creek in the first place, and coming out here, and the change of environment, the change of philosophy, mentality, however you want to put it, and then like being surrounded by all of it is like it changes your mentality completely, to the point where you don't even have people necessarily, like, I don't even have anyone out here that I really know that I don't know anybody that uses, you know what I mean? And so it's like, and I understand there's people that live here that will know that, but it's like, because the level of care, because the level of like personal relationships that you have to lean on, that you meet, like, you know, just in this situation,
totally,
you know what I mean?
absolutely.
It's like I would have never known how I came out here, and like all the, you know, it's just the way it worked out.
Wow.
And the way like they did it was just amazing, and it was like and then like meeting like, you know what I mean? Like, I've been to Hazleton in Minnesota, which is like the OG rehab place, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like they write the books on
exactly, they write the books, and they're your number, you know what I mean? You're it's a corporation. Like, here it was like, oh yeah, that's, you know, and I was like, oh no shit, and then I talked to him, and he ended up being really cool and like personable and approachable, but that sense of like belonging that you can relate to is like, it's so different, and it's like so apparent when you see it like right away. And obviously coming into a rehab, like, your senses are so up, and like being addicts, we're sensitive to, like, you know, I'm super self-conscious, you know what I mean? Just like everything, I'll interpret everything you do as like a slight, or not even a slight, but like, oh shit, like I shouldn't have said that, or oh, like what, however you want to put it.
So yeah, self-conscious and self-aware.
Right. And so like the fact that when people come in, and like, and I was coming off Xanax, so like I had even a heightened version of that because of all the anxiety and everything.
The rebound, yeah.
Right. And so like to be like totally welcomed like that, and be like, and have that community, I guess, is so much different than so many experiences I had before. And then when it incorporated like the whole war workout thing, it was like, because you and Justin are so like passionate about it, and the nutrition, and like, and this is by far the best I've eaten in my entire life.
Right.
And I noticed a huge difference, because I take some psych meds, and like I don't have a problem taking them. Like I'm good with it. I don't have a problem like overusing them. I don't have a problem with like the stigma of using psych
the fact
meds.
that you have to use
right.
Right,
exactly.
Route.
Like I used to have a little bit of problem with psych meds, just because, you know, you go to a psychiatrist and you can tell what you're going to be prescribed by what pen he's using, because you can tell the drugs on the pen. So I did.
That's funny. It's true though.
It really is. So anyway, what I'm taking now, and that keeps me like, just, you know what I mean, just caring enough to give a shit, but it was like, it wasn't a lifestyle that I was necessarily enjoying. Like I was getting through everything, and like I said, it had been, and that was such a huge 180-degree change, that I cared enough that I wasn't using, that it was just like built upon when I first started doing the war thing. Right. And when we first heard it was like going to be combined together. And then, like I said, with like the passion you guys have with it, to get motivated to do it is not difficult to do, especially when you're there. And when you're doing that every day, and then you start seeing the benefits of the nutrition, and like, you know, nighttime will be sometimes really bad for me, and I'll be like, man, I didn't accomplish shit. I'm where I'm at. You know what I mean? Just, you start to get really down in your head, and I would start doing that. But like now, I don't. I mean, it still happens. Like, it still be like a net, like kind of a net, especially in the morning too. Like when I first wake up, I'm like, fuck this, I don't do. But like this morning, I woke up, I was excited to do this, just to, you know, like, do it, because it seemed like it was going to be fun, and it has been. But the passion you guys have with it, and the way you guys like relate it to people, I mean, you get like these people that are doing the IOP program, it's like what, like at least 80% of them, and it's not required to do the war, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to do it to be in the IOP, but like you still get 80% of the people that when they get done with 3 hours or 4 hours, however long of treatment, after sitting there doing all that stuff, they know that, like, they know how good they're gonna feel after that. Like, I'm dead after the war, you know what I mean? Like, and the gains you get from it, and I don't mean like physical, like, which are great, but like the immediate like satisfaction you get, the release of endorphins and everything, once you catch your breath, of course, but like, you know, that's a little rough. Like, I hate you guys in the maybe 2 minutes before it takes me to completely recover, but then like when I do, yeah, man, that natural high is crazy. Like it's so good, and it lasts like the rest of the day. And like the rest of the day, I'm like, I'm motivated to go home and do whatever I have to do, or like I'm motivated to get out and experience more, especially being the backdrop we have with like the mountains, being able to do all these amazing things. So I get that I get that like craving, like almost like a drug craving, you know what I mean? And I honestly, I noticed it like before doing the work thing. I'm like, shit, like this is gonna suck for about 20-30 minutes. And that's another great thing, is that it's a quick, hard workout. It's not like a 3-hour process where you get in. So for so many people who don't want to work out, and I hate going to the gyms because it's fucking like there's no reason to have like a catwalk of mirrors up, you know what I mean? And like that fucking douchiness that happens there. And that's me being judgmental on myself, whatever. But it's that there's none of that. There's no like judgment. There's no self-consciousness. And like I said, the passion you guys have with it and the way that it's like so perfectly symbiotic with Cold Creek now, and the way that you guys teach the nutrition on Mondays and do like have the like intermittently have it like, you know, inserted into this stuff, makes it so like run so smoothly that you're not like, oh shit, like I want to go work out. Like you just not even, it's like a thing you have to do. Like I said, I get that craving where I'm like, I start to almost like taste it like when I knew I'd go pick up. When I'm like, I'm going to pick up. I know, you know, I'm starting to get that like fucking feeling where I know how I'm going to feel afterwards. And like what we were talking about, like having the open mind of like what the skydiving thing, like what we were talking about, that just doing these experiential stuff, and like the golf tournament, hopefully next year at 420.
Yeah, 420.
Yep. I'm doing a 420 golf tournament. Change the connotation.
Yeah, right.
And,
Absolutely.
And the skydiving, we got to keep going on. I mean,
absolutely.
We're ready to go. Frank, you, me. I mean, you. Whenever you guys want to go, let's go.
That's and then that would be the most epic process group ever. After that,
Yeah. Oh, you guys are thinking about doing it for process?
Yeah.
Well, wow. Well, no, we'll skydive, and then we'll process in the hangar. You know, we'll have a group and we'll talk about it.
Hell yeah.
You know, I mean, that's what we do in the gym. You know, we train and then we have a little group right after. You know,
and those are that's like the most focused, and that's like why I want to do the coin out after it, because like, you know, so many times when you're in the groups, you're like in your head, and you're like, oh shit, like, not that you're not paying attention to people, but your mind isn't right. I shouldn't say it's not right. It's not like in that like very, I don't know, positive mindset where you're like like I said, your endorphins, everything is flowing, and you're just like in a good mindset, and like you're being mindful and everything. So like like all your thoughts are coming together in a way that you can like express it in a positive way that's just helpful for everybody. And then like I said, I mean, I'm a rehab veteran. I've been to so many places. And some places I've been to places that incorporate some experimental, like whatever, you know, you might work out like once a week, and it's like some basic stuff. But like the way that it's individualized, and like because you guys are right there in it, even if there's like however many people are there, you go through with each individual person and be like, all right, I want you to do this much. All right, do what you can. Like, you know, you just do what you can, what you feel comfortable with. It's not like this mentality, like this aggressive bullying, like, oh, you got to do that, you know what I mean, like that type of thing.
This is what the program says, you got to do it,
right? Exactly. It's like, no, we're gonna contour it to you, like we're gonna adapt this to you.
Well, they're there so you know what they're talking about. Other treatment centers, sometimes it might just have somebody come in that doesn't know you, doesn't know you at all, right? And doesn't and might not even know working out that much. They just know, hey, you're supposed to do this program, and so just say, all right, yeah, do the exercises, and then let's go and do whatever else. And a week later, Dustin always talks about how you have to do it consistently throughout the week to make a change, right?
And like the thing is, it's like, I mean, I'm guilty of this. Like, I want everything the easiest way, you know, like as that, you know, you want instant gratification, you want instant everything,
sure,
and you want everything done for you, you know what I mean? And the thing is, it's like, there's no bullshitting around. Like, if you're not willing to continue the process of eating well and all that stuff, like, it's great when you're in treatment. It's amazing. But like you said, there'll be people come in, they'll give you a handout, and be like, all right, this is what you should do. Go do this. It's like you don't experience it, so you don't have that. You don't have that like knowledge or that like.
You don't have that muscle memory of it.
Yeah.
Whatever the right word would be.
Right.
But
yeah.
you haven't experienced it before.
So you don't know.
Where you can you actually continue it.
Right. So you don't. You're just like, oh yeah, that sounds great. And you're like, yeah, I should do that. But you don't.
You've done it.
And now that you do it, like you institute the nutritional shit, and you institute like I wake up every day and I make this like strawberry banana kale.
Hopefully, make your bed first.
Smoothie.
That's important.
I
for
do
that.
make my
All
bed.
right,
I
good.
listen to Motown because that's the best way to wake up ever.
Absolutely, I
Listen
agree.
to Motown.
Best stuff ever.
And then I get up and I'm like, okay, I have this much to do, and it's like a positive hangover the next day, where you're like, you still have that like hunger, that craving to like just continue it. And yeah, of course there's like, I was talking about it, I think yesterday, maybe the day before. Of course there's going to be times where I'm like, oh shit, man, I remember how good I felt off that. But like, when I was talking about using earlier, as much as it might have sounded like I was glorified, whatever it was, but I don't get the same feeling right now. Like I have that like, taste it kind of like good feeling about working out and the endorphins I get and how much better it is. Yeah, it's a little more work than what it used to be to get drugs, and it takes a little longer, but like it's so much more. I appreciate it so much more because I feel like I've accomplished so much more.
Yeah, wow.
So
that's sick. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, man.
That's what
amazing.
That's what I mean, what you just said. That's what you trying to teach people how to capture that awareness around training and nutrition. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like you have to create new rewards. I mean, it's not the same reward, but you're essentially getting a new reward from, and so now you like that, and then when it gets hard in your head, you could be, and what you could go do that could help you get out of your head. And that's the same way I use it. I mean, it's the same way. I don't always want to go into the gym. Trust me. Like I trained this morning at 6:30, and I was an ornery son of a bitch.
We're good. It's not recording that.
Huh?
We can move that. It's not recording that. Hold on, I'll rewind.
But I was ornery, but I just knew it was the same thing. I just like, well, I'm gonna get. It was a 25-minute workout, and I was done. And when I got done, dude, I was just hand in the air like Rocky, just happy,
running up the steps,
like positive affirmations, driving out. I'm like, dude, I'm so happy. I'm done. I'm done training for the day. Go have a nice little breakfast, working on prayer, little bit of reading, and then dude. It set the tone for me to have a productive day, even though at 6:30 when I first stepped in there, there was 2 people in there and I didn't say one word to them. I was in the worst mood, dude. Like not one word. And then after, I get done training and I'm like their best friend. I'm like, dude, I'm sorry for being a dick earlier,
it just brings you out, man. It's crazy. Like you just get that. I don't know, but like I said, they tell you at all these places, they tell you what to do, and it's like, yeah, that makes sense. Like I should do that, but if you're not motivated, I guess, to do it, and you don't have, like I said, an experience of how it worked for you, they're like, okay, yeah, that worked for other people, but like another thing is addicts, terminal uniqueness, like. Well, yeah, it worked for you, but like I'm different. Like that's not gonna happen for me.
Yeah.
So when you actually experience it and you like have that, I don't know, epiphany, or you have that enlightenment from it, you're just like, damn. Like, and it like you said, it's not easy all the time to get up and go do it, but when you start to condition yourself and understand, and I don't mean condition in the physical way, I mean condition in like the Pavlovian mental way, where you're like, I know how I'm gonna feel after this is done.
Yeah, ring that bell.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Wow,
and it's just, man, it's sick, dude. I fucking love it. It's great.
Well, thanks dude. I appreciate it.
What a story,
man. Bro. I've been wanting to have you come on for a while. I mean, we've been talking about it, and I've learned a ton from you. Just over the past 4 or 5 months since I've gotten to know you, bro, and like a lot about addiction, and I appreciate you coming on here and telling your story, because I think it's going to help a lot of people.
I think so too, man. I certainly do. You know, a couple things you said that really kind of stuck with me is these visceral experiences you had right before a life-changing moment was about to happen, right? Like right before you used heroin the first time, right before you potentially were going to have your arm saved or lost. And it just shows kind of that instinct that we have as people, you know, to listen to ourselves, because our body's going to tell us when something big's about to happen. You know, your senses are heightened and you're just on. So I think as all addicts, we need to think about when we feel things like that, because you never know what's going to happen after. Chances are you're in a crossroads, you know?
Yeah, and you never want to trust yourself.
You never do. You know, let me ask you this. I know that we've kind of done this historically, but we can, if you need to take a couple minutes to think about it, you can. But if you have a piece of advice to give the listeners to part with, you know, what might it be? A challenge, kind of like a challenge for the week, right? Or something they could do to maybe improve their lives a bit.
So I don't know. I'm kind of reminded of like a few things, like what we were talking about. Like quotes are always helpful for me because they're concise and there's something like I can reference.
Right.
And like Nietzsche's quote about like the why, or the, was it how? If you have a why, you can get through any how.
Right.
If you have a why, you can bear any how. I'm paraphrasing, but that's something like that. And then like Ben Franklin's thing about, you know, once you stop learning, or once you're done learning, you're done. So like
Right.
always keep the open mind, and like always like never feel like you're like, I guess, as lonely as it gets. Like never get so stubborn in your own head that you can't go like just talk to anybody and just, I don't know, get deep with people. And you can, it always comes back, man. It reciprocates, you know, just like in that whole, I mean, and that's the thing, like you hear about so many, like, and I used to talk bad about it so much, was like all these sayings and shit in AA
Right.
and places, like, but like there's a reason. Cliches are cliches for a reason.
Yeah.
Because
they stood the test of time.
Exactly. So you like listening to the ones and like paying attention to the ones that help you. And there's so many conflicting things in the world, and even AA, you know, you're like, well, but this guy, you know, it's like,
Right.
just, you know, it's like, be true, like trust yourself, like what you were just
Thine
saying.
own self be true.
Exactly. Trust yourself in those experiences. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like I don't ever trust myself, and don't be stubborn in the, oh, I know I'm right, but like don't ever know anything.
Right.
Because once you know something, then you become ignorant.
The one thing I love is, the one thing I know is that I know nothing at all.
Exactly.
You know, true
Yeah.
true knowledge exists in knowing that you know nothing
Dude,
at all. I
yeah,
think is
man,
what it
Jimi
says.
Hendrix, bro.
Yeah.
What is it? It's like knowledge speaks, wisdom listens.
Yes. Absolutely.
I
man.
would say that's
Those
my,
are good.
yeah.
Those are good.
That's
I think
my
everyone
end.
should rewind and listen to all those. So, thanks a lot, Chris, dude. It's been great, man. It's, you know, I look forward to golfing with you this next week, knowing that you almost lost those arms, man, and you golf like a champ. So
Appreciate it.
it's cool to see where you've come.
Thanks, bro. Thanks
Yeah,
for
of
being
course,
on.
man. I got episodes more, I'm sure.
Absolutely, man. We look forward to it.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, bro.